Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be continuing on with my Weird Relationships with Tarot Cards series. So for those of you that haven't seen one of these videos on my channel yet, essentially what I like to do is pick a specific tarot card and kind of share with you my personal relationship that I have built with this tarot card that might vary or be slightly different than the kind of like traditional definition that you might see if you were to read about it in a book. That's one of the things I love about tarot cards is I just feel like the more that you work with them, the more that you do readings or grow in your experience as a reader, you really can build your own kind of like personal relationships with the cards, and it might be different from what somebody else's relationship with the card is. So I'm super excited for today's video because we are going to be talking all about the Eight of Cups. Dun dun dun. I'm such a nerd. So I definitely have a very unique relationship with the Eight of Cups so far in my tarot journey, and there are some differences in my personal relationship with this card versus what you might see in the book. So if this sounds like something you guys are interested in learning about, then please keep watching. All right, you guys, so just like with all of the rest of these videos, what I'm gonna do is start off by reading you guys the definition of the Eight of Cups from a book. So if you're curious, this is called the Modern Witchcraft Book of Tarot. It's a cool book if you wanna check this out because it does give you a lot of really good insight into the meanings of the tarot cards, and it kind of breaks it down by like what the card means in love, relationship, etc., okay? But I'm gonna start off by reading to you guys kind of like the general definition of the Eight of Cups, and then I'll share with you some examples of what it means to me that's a little different from this definition. So in this book, the Eight of Cups is defined as, okay, it says, so you wish things had turned out differently, but you can't salvage a matter, and you realize you must abandon it. It's time to let go and get out of a situation that has failed despite your best efforts. Move ahead with determination, find a new direction, and learn from your experience. So a lot of times with the Eight of Cups, you'll see this kind of read or interpreted as like walking away from someone or something. The reason I think I went to someone is because a lot of times when you see this Eight of Cups in love readings, this is like someone's leaving the relationship, someone's walking away from this connection. It's a lot of talk you'll hear about this card having to do with like walking away or moving away from something. For me though, there are some similarities that I do share with the way that this card is defined in the book. But for me, the Eight of Cups has always been more of a temporary, mental, emotional, or energetic walking away versus me like physically removing myself from a situation and never coming back to it. Like it's always been a very temporary emotion or a very temporary energy that I'm in. And it's always so far been more of like an energetic feeling that I have versus a physical action that I've taken, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna share with you guys just a couple of examples here. All right, so I do have a couple of examples that I want to share with you guys about my personal relationship with the Eight of Cups and kind of what I mean by this like energetic / temporary walking away from a situation. So back in April, this is like right when the quarantines and the lockdowns and all this crazy stuff in 2020 started, and it was definitely a very challenging month for me for a lot of different reasons. And the Eight of Cups kind of started showing itself to me more than it ever had before. This really wasn't a card that I would get in my daily card pulls a lot. It wasn't a card that I would see pop up in personal readings for myself a lot, but it definitely started making its presence known in the month of April. So just to give you guys a couple of examples of some things that happened in April that kind of embodied this Eight of Cups energy. So back in April, I had some pretty intense decisions, very emotional decisions that I had to make. I think a lot of us were experiencing a lot of the unknown when it came to our jobs, our careers, things like that in the month of April because we weren't sure how these lockdowns were going to impact that for the long term. And I was certainly experiencing that in the month of April. And I was in a situation where I had to make a decision about my living situation without knowing whether or not I was going to be keeping my job. So you can imagine how like stressful that was, having to give, you know, your leasing office an answer onto something, and you don't even know if you're gonna have a job in a couple of months, and you don't want to sign on to something if you're not gonna be able to pay your rent. And it was just like a very emotionally draining month, and a very emotionally draining situation to be a part of. So in the month of April, one thing that I learned through this card coming up in my daily card pulls, whenever this would come up for me whenever the day was really centered around me just kind of removing myself from the emotion of making that decision, or me really kind of detaching myself or giving myself a break, quote unquote, from thinking about that event and thinking about the plan or thinking about the decision that I was being required to make, okay? So maybe this was a day where, you know I have this deadline that I have to let my leasing office know in like 10 days, but today is going to be a day where I don't even freaking think about it, and I just focus my attention on other things. So you see what I mean when I said earlier that this has always been more of like that energetic or emotional kind of detachment from a situation. And it was something that I did eventually have to come back to later, because obviously I had to make this decision. But I think this card was showing up as more of a message for me that I needed to maybe take a break from it for a while, a temporary break, pour my emotions into other things. Very much like the card is illustrated, right? It's like you've got these 8 cups behind you, but you've got to take this journey towards something that's more fulfilling to you, or maybe walk away from the cups for a second so that you can find a better solution for yourself. So that's kind of one example of, an energetic movement away from a situation versus a physical moving away from a situation for me personally with this card. So another example of my relationship with the 8 of Cups, a lot of times I get this card when I'm in a situation that isn't really the most fulfilling to me in the moment. So this has popped up a couple of times for me over the course of the past few months when it comes to like work-related situations. I think, again, this year, 2020 has been a really trying year, and there have been a couple of times where I felt like I've experienced burnout, especially when it comes to things going on at work. It's been like an emotional roller coaster with a lot of things. So, one time I got this call. I remember I got this card on a Friday when we had a few different calls on our calendar that were like optional calls. So not things that I would have to be in attendance of. They were just optional things like for fun, or just optional things like for education or whatever it was. And typically I'm the type of person that would take calls like that because I like to participate and kind of show my face and be active and things like that. But I remember there's a Friday that this card came up for me, and I was like, anything optional, I'm not interested because I was just so burnt out from everything that was going on. And so the 8 of Cups came up that day just to kind of tell me, like, maybe walk away from that right now and focus yourself onto other things that are going to bring more emotional fulfillment to you in the moment. So those are just a few of my personal examples of what the 8 of Cups card means to me. Like I was saying, it's very much more of an emotional state that I'm in when I get this card, or just like an energy of like maybe energetically or emotionally or mentally moving away from something versus me actually like leaving something or someone behind permanently. And almost always it's something that I end up like returning to, right? So like in the examples I share with you guys, like about work, it was like a temporary thing where just like that day I just wasn't feeling it, or I was just burnt out. So I needed to kind of focus my attention on other things. And then I came back, a couple days later, I was good, I was refreshed, I was, ready to get back into it again. So I'm super curious to hear from you guys. What is your relationship with the 8 of Cups? Have you seen this come up for you in a similar situation as I have? Or do you guys have different meanings and different associations for this card? I'm super curious. So if you guys read tarot, please leave me a comment down below and let me know. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for taking the time out to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up for me. Share my content. It really, really helps me to grow my channel. I'm so excited because I'm almost at 200 subscribers. But I want more. I want to get to 1,000. So any support you guys are feeling called to give, it's just so greatly appreciated. Please subscribe to the channel if you're guided to do so. Hit the bell so that you guys know when I'm uploading new content. And I will see you guys in the next one.